Hey everybody, welcome to another Flesh and Blood Team League stream from the Combat Chain. I am your host, Adam Philipchuk, and today we've got a fun match for everyone. But before we get into it, I do want to introduce our special commentator. We've got Yuki streaming live with us today. How's it going, Yuki?
Going good. Looking forward to seeing how this match goes. Should be an interesting one. The Lexi versus Oldham matchup can be quite tough, but I know that Isaac's been working away and is a very accomplished Lexi player, so be curious to see how this one goes.
Yeah, so we've got Isaac Jessen taking on Jacob Irby, and we're just waiting on. We had a technical glitch up there, but the heroes did get briefly revealed, and we've got Isaac on Lexi taking on, yeah, Jacob on Oldhim, and this one's going to be, yeah, a very interesting one. Um, Isaac being, piloting Lexi to a U.S. top eight finish at U.S. Nationals. Certainly a very accomplished Lexi pilot, and I am very excited to see how he's going to play this match today.
Yeah, I think a lot of it will depend on the list that Isaac brought. It's traditionally definitely Oldham favored. The ice lists struggle quite a bit into Oldham. Lightning is a little bit more reasonable. I would say that Voltaire is like unfavored but okay into Oldham and has a chance, and then Death Dealer is probably a little bit better off than Voltaire. So it'll be curious to see which list he's been running. I know he's been kind of bouncing back and forth between a few different lists, can't completely make up his mind. So let's see what he settled on.
Yeah, and I guess can you tell us more like for Lexi to be successful in this match, what is Lexi's general strategy? What does Lexi need to do exactly?
Yeah, for sure. She really needs to be able to set up some big turns to go over the top of Oldham's defenses. He's very good at kind of shutting her down between the crown and rampart or stalagmite to kind of deal with those breakpoints, as well as the ice react being quite a bit of a nuisance. And his disruptive tools are also really good against Lexi, like Channel like Frigid, and if he's running it Endless Winter are a big problem for Lexi.
Right.
Um, so yeah, it sort of depends on his ability to, if he's on Voltaire, to set up those big like Rain Razor, and if he's playing Art of War, then Art of War turns, where you're able to push, like 25, 30 damage. That's really what you want to be doing. And similar with Death Dealer, you want to set up a really nice arsenal and just have these giant go wide turns that Oldham can't really effectively deal with. Um, from Oldham's side, I think they really want to be disrupting Lexi if they're on a if Lexi's on like a lightning build. Ice can be fatigued, but in general, Oldham wants to do like a mix of defending and disruption. Usually, just sitting back and giving Lexi too much space can actually give her. It makes her life a lot easier with setting up those big turns than if he's actively disrupting her throughout.
All right. So then based off that, it's going to be really interesting to see, yeah, like you said, what each player decides to employ for game plans going into this match. It looks like we're just about to get started here. The players appear to be done sideboarding and are just kind of see the cursors wiggling around there, and it looks like just a final little conversations happening before they start.
Yeah, so curious to see the equipment loadouts and everything else. Even the equipment will tell us quite a bit more about what to expect going in.
Yeah, whether, especially I guess on Lexi's side, whether we see, like you said, Voltaire versus Death Dealer. And what
Yeah.
about on Oldham's side? Like, what equipment are we looking curious to see right away here?
I'm not the most familiar. So most of the equipment should be pretty standard, like you'd expect, like the crown, the gloves, as well as the ironhide boots, Crater Fist's gloves. So I think most of that will be standard. I'm curious about stalagmite versus rampart. I would imagine that
Hmm.
stalagmite would indicate like a little bit more of a tempo plan, and rampart a little bit more of um, like a defensive fatigue style plan, but I'm not actually entirely sure which one is better in this matchup. I haven't played Lexi into Oldhim quite as much since Everfest dropping, with Oldhim kind of being less popular these days. So
Let
I'll
me
be
see.
curious to see what he chooses.
See the players shuffling up here. Should be getting a reveal any second. See chat's popping off already. How's it going, everyone? Got some people saying this is going to be a Lexi masterclass. I'm certainly hoping so. A
Yeah, I
little
know this
more.
is a matchup that Isaac and I have put quite a bit of time into, and it can be quite tough, but the Oldhim does need to play the matchup well as well. I think there are a few pitfalls that Oldhim can definitely fall into depending on how they navigate it, and we'll see how much experience this Oldhim has in the matchup. Looking
All
for a
right.
good one here.
So we see the equipment getting revealed. We've got Isaac on Voltaire. And yeah, pretty standard layout for Oldhim. We see the Rampart, so likely a more defensive plan. But we do see Oldhim going first here, and starting off with an E strike. Um, if you're running a defensive plan, certainly not a card you're expecting to see.
Yeah, a little bit of an interesting choice here. I imagine this is for Go again, and the idea is just to pressure Lexi so she can't set up too many arrows.
Right,
But
because
we'll see.
that Voltaire being instant speed, allowing you to load in an arrow. Is there any advantage to loading in an arrow on Jacob's turn here for Isaac?
Usually you want to be loading at least one because then you're starting with 5 cards. With the Snapdragon Scalers, you can also potentially load. Oh, pitching a 3 of a kind, interesting. Probably not what he wanted to do, but can't afford to take the damage. But usually you always want to load at least one arrow, and with the Snapdragon Scalers, you can actually even load 2 arrows and just pop them right away if you want to have a really big turn. It does kind of rely on you drawing into that Rain Razors, but it is a line I've seen players take.
Okay, interesting. So we see, in fact, just like you said, Isaac choosing to load in a snapshot at the end of Jacob's turn before going over to the start of his turn. Isaac on the first real opportunity to gain tempo here, because of that
Yeah.
mechanic in the Flesh and Blood rules where everyone draws up at the end of the first turn. So we see,
Absolutely, and I think this is really setting a tone for the matchup that Isaac's willing to just take damage in order to set up big hands, and that's really going to be kind of the name of the game here. So I think we're going to see a lot of that from Isaac, taking a very aggressive lightning-based approach here.
a Voltaire activation, loading in a Frazzle. Let's just have a closer look to see. I imagine it's a red Frazzle. No, that's a blue Frazzle. I would imagine he's choosing Go again here. Fusing with
Yeah,
a
almost
Weave Lightning.
definitely. The Frazzle is one of the things that makes Lightning very good into Lexi. It just the way it interacts with the Crown of Seeds is very favorable and helps you kind of push through damage. So the starting the chain with the Frazzle is quite nice, although the blue is of course not what Isaac's hoping for in an ideal world.
Right, because I suppose the Frazzle kind of works the same way Ball Lightning does, and you can, as the turn player, stack the damage before Crown of Seeds. Is that correct?
Yes, it's exactly the same ruling as Ball Lightning, except that it applies to all attacks and for the whole turn, so it doesn't need the combat chain. Um, oh, an Ice React, and I guess Isaac. It's a little bit of a risky Ice React there. If Isaac had an arrow, he could just load in response, but I guess he didn't. So good read perhaps there by Oldhim. Definitely paying off.
So we see the Frazzle. It looks like we had a Lightning Press played on that Frazzle, so it did get pumped to 6 with leaking 4 damage through. Then that got followed up with a Snapshot. This is a red Snapshot, so this is an additional 4. This was not fused, so no ability to activate Voltaire again, nor does Isaac have any cards in hand to do so. And Jacob's just thinking about his block here.
I suppose Jacob did know the last card in hand. Now that I think about it, because the Weave Ice was used to the Weave Lightning was used to fuse there. So just a heads up play, recognizing what's in Isaac's hand, and yeah,
Paying attention there.
interesting. Interesting throwing out the Command and Conquer. I guess because there's no Arsenal, it's not as potent of a threat here.
Yeah, so then I wonder if Jacob's just going to be looking to threaten a Frosty Whale here then.
That seems likely, or perhaps setting up a card in Arsenal. No, he's going to go with the Hammer to keep up pressure, which I like. I think that's good.
Threatening the Frostbite is certainly that Frostbite makes a huge difference in a matchup like this where resource efficiency is so important.
It does for sure, and it's interesting. Judging by Jacob's life total, it looks like Isaac might have missed stacking the damage off the Frazzle to get through the Crown of Seeds. I think Jacob should have taken one there, but Isaac perhaps not stacking it that way or not remembering to announce that. So we'll see. Hopefully he'll remember that interaction a little bit later into the match.
Yeah, and they're an example of just how intricate Flesh and Blood can be with those little nuances on paying attention to stack things appropriately.
Absolutely, and there's so much going on in this match between all the fuse effects and Oldham's reaction and Voltaire's an instant. There's a lot of kind of tricky lines and mind games and a lot to track. And usually Lex needs to be thinking about their pitch too. So sometimes it can be quite a lot to remember everything and manage it.
And we see here with the Frosty Whale being threatened, Frostbite on hit. Isaac's just thinking about his block here, probably trying to figure out if he can afford to have the Frostbite. I know we can see. I don't believe we can see his hand here on the stream right now, but that is just due to a lag on the TTS end. You can see him. There we go. It has appeared now, and we're going to see a block for 5 here.
Okay, so that probably indicates a all red hand from Isaac. Lexi really usually not wanting to block in these spots, but sometimes if you're choked on resources, the Frostbite can just be really, really backbreaking. And yeah, just opting to Arsenal Pass.
So hoping possibly to pass into the following turn with a 5-card hand. However, Oldham's going to be coming back into his turn with a full hand as well. No Arsenal, but still 3 cards in hand, or 4 cards in hand. And just opting to swing for the whale again. I gotta wonder if maybe he's got a pummel he's sitting on right now or something like that.
Yeah, perhaps a pummel or maybe just he's loaded up on D-reacts. Interesting that he's chosen to pitch the pulse as well. Often that's a card they like to keep in hand to react, but perhaps just valuing the Frostbite there.
And possibly not having another ice card that pitches to the whale.
Yeah, that seems likely. Otherwise, I'm sure he'd love to have that card in hand.
Now I know Starvo is always very happy to hold on to the pulses, but is Oldham a little more happy to play the pulse as needed?
So I'm by no means an Oldham expert, but what I've seen playing against Oldham players is they often like to pitch it for the hero ability. The prevent 2 and top a card is just really, really potent, and then it
Right.
also cycles it into the deck for later, and you can hopefully pitch stack it with some Oakenolds to close out the game later on, and the crown helps you kind of turbo through your deck, of course, just the same way it does in Starvo.
Right, that makes sense. So Isaac just thinking about his block here, probably once again trying to figure out if he can afford to deal with the Frostbite or if a block here is required.
Absolutely. I'll be curious to see if Isaac's running Art of Wars in this list or not. The bracer seems to indicate that perhaps he's going for more of a like the low, like lots of zero cost arrows, Art of War, Rain Razors to produce big turns. But I know that Art of War is one that not all Lexi players are on. I'm not sure where I sit on it myself. It's a very good card when it's good, and sometimes it can be a little bit awkward, and it's another card that doesn't block. But I can definitely see the potential for the card. So curious what conclusion Isaac brought here.
And we're going to see another full block on the whale here. Isaac possibly once again not having the hand he needs to really push it.
Yeah, Isaac just setting up another 6 card hand, or sorry, setting up another turn here for a 6 card hand. Perhaps having too many lightning actions. The Heaven's Claw and the Lightning Surge are great out of Arsenal, but they're much less impressive when you're just playing them from hand since they don't have a natural go again. So and with the Frazzle and Arsenal, it makes a lot of sense. He didn't have a way to give them go again either, so perhaps not able to do the most with that last hand.
So now we see a Command and Conquer being played on Jacob's turn. This is with the 2 cards in Arsenal. This is definitely hard for I think Isaac to face down.
Yeah, this is never what you want to see as Lexi, and especially not when Oldham has so many cards. You've got to have the pummel in the back of your mind here. Okay, so there's the Art of War.
Interesting.
Wonder if he's just perhaps not able to block effectively with his current hand.
We're going to see a banish to draw 2. And I imagine the other mode he's choosing here is either defend from Arsenal or +1/+1.
Yeah, I suppose we'll find out soon. Defending from Arsenal would be quite an interesting line to take, but I imagine it's probably +1/+1.
So I imagine that was a block for 8 then.
So playing around a potential blue pummel there. The fact that he was able to play the Art of War off the Tunic did make that play quite a bit more efficient than it would have been otherwise. So
We're going to see at the beginning of Isaac's turn an Electrify revealed from Arsenal, giving his next attack go again, followed up by a Rain Razor's pitched to play the Electrify. Since this Electrify is played from Arsenal, he does get to draw a card. And that's going to be followed up by a 3 of a kind. So another 3 cards drawn here. This definitely giving Isaac some fuel to power a huge turn. However, noting that because of the 3 of a kind, no cards can be played from hand now for the remainder of the turn.
yeah, I think we're starting to see why Isaac chose to use the Art of War to dig, probably unable to block with the Rain Razors and not wanting to block with the 3 of a kind. Often you don't want to be pitching Rain Razors because it's such a powerful card, but in this matchup it can go quite long and can go to fatigue, so pitch stacking an endgame with that Rain Razors can be quite a nice thing to do. So perhaps Isaac looking to set that up on the bottom of his deck.
So with pitching for an endgame for Lexi, what does an endgame pitch stack look like for Lexi then?
So usually you would want perhaps Rain Razors with some arrows and perhaps a 3 of a kind, although often you're kind of priced into playing the 3 of a kinds as you draw them. But certainly setting up like Rain Razors and remembering when it's going to come up so that you have some arrows in arsenal and you can do like a 3 arrow turn with a Rain Razors can be a nice way to get a bit of reach and close out the game.
All right.
Oh no, looks like Isaac whiffed on arrows here, only able to fire off the Frazzle from Arsenal. That's A little bit reminiscent of the U.S. Nats and a little bit unfortunate for Isaac there.
Yeah,
He's not been playing the best this game so far.
and we see once again on Jacob's turn, Jacob just throwing the hammer, threatening a frostbite. Even though Jacob's had a full hand coming into his turn, I gotta wonder if Jacob was intending to play a fairly defensive game here.
It's certainly seeming that way between, the sink below and the Ram's head and how he's been piloting the deck so far. We'll see if Isaac is able to set something up, something explosive up and break through these defenses.
We see another
Electrify
electric.
from Arsenal is
Yeah,
a great start, though.
once again allowing Isaac to give his next attack go again and drawing a card. What color electrify is this? That's a red electrify. So on hit of his next attack action, that's also going to be another 3 additional damage. And we see that followed up by a Weave Lightning. Once again, this is a red Weave Lightning into a red Lightning Surge. So this is 7 go again. We see that blocked out by a Staunch Response. There we go. We're going to get an Endless Arrow. Oh, and hit or Voltaire activation to get an Endless Arrow into Arsenal, followed up by going to end step, capitalizing on trying to set up another 6-card hand here, it looks like.
Yeah, and I really like this play. This is kind of what you need to do as Lexi. It might look a little bit odd, but if I imagine that the card in Arsenal is maybe like a red lightning card, and that can be a great start to a big turn because Isaac got a little bit of damage in with that lightning press, but he hasn't done any damage otherwise, and he really needs to start finding spots to do that, or he's going to be running out of cards in deck here. So he does have some time, but um, Lexi definitely does need to be able to set up those big hands.
Yeah, and we can see here Isaac already down to 35 cards in deck, comparable to Jacob's 52 cards. Um, you're exactly right that if Isaac can't start finding some big damage here soon, this could be a hard place for Isaac to be in. We see Isaac choosing to take the whale this time, making a frostbite under his control, uh, followed by going back to the start of Isaac's turn. Tunic going to 3, so Tunic is live this turn. Isaac's got a full hand, 2 cards in Arsenal, one of them being an Endless Press. We're going to see the other one being revealed here. It's an Electrify.
Okay, so perhaps finally getting a bit more of an ideal turn here. We'll see what Isaac has. But I'm sure he would love to be able to string together 3 or 4 attacks here.
See Isaac thinking about what he just drew here off the Electrify, so thinking about what the next step here is. His next attack does have go again. Isaac really thinking long and hard about this play here. Probably trying to figure out the line that makes the most damage.
Lexi's often a bit tricky in that you have to kind of evaluate how to balance pushing damage this turn as well as setting up damage for next turn. You usually both things are important, and identifying when to do what is quite important, and especially in a matchup like this where it really is defined by your really big turns more than your sort of middling turns. So Isaac just taking his time there.
So we see Impulsive Voltaven being played here, followed up by a Heaven's Claws. This is going to be 8 with go again, on hit threatening an additional 3. My apologies, that's a blue Electrify, threatening an additional 1.
we'll get a piece of Oldham's equipment here.
But we're going to see looks like a full block with the equipment and a fate foreseen from Arsenal. Isaac following that up with the three of a
Oh,
kind.
this is fantastic. Hopefully he'll draw into some arrows here.
And
This could be exactly what Isaac needs.
what kind of hand are you looking for here?
Ideally, he just wants a blue pitch in hand, or even a yellow pitch, and 2 arrows, so he can just fire off 2 arrows and then finish with the endless arrow.
We see another Rain Razors being pitched here. I imagine to activate Voltaire.
Okay, so he does have at least 1 arrow and potentially representing another 0 cost arrow from hand. Wonder if he has it.
This is a red Dazzling Crescendo. So this is going to be, I imagine this is 4 with go again here currently.
Yeah, I believe that the Oldham just opted to take it. Okay, and then choosing to block out the
Endless
endless arrows
arrow,
here.
preventing it from coming back to hand. And
that's quite a
still,
heads up play here from Oldham. If the endless arrow does go back to hand with the 1 floating, even though Isaac doesn't have an action point, he can still activate Voltaire the second time to load it, and then Arsenal a lightning card to go with it. So endless arrow, even at the end of the chain, is quite threatening so long as there's a Voltaire activation.
and still tough for Isaac to get in damage though. That turn only taking the Oldham down to 31.
Yeah, definitely not what Isaac's hoping for off of a 3 of a kind turn. Hitting 1 arrow, but not getting the second one was a little bit unfortunate there for him.
And we see on Jacob's turn, Jacob just with the remaining card in hand, pitching a nice card to swing the whale for 4, threatening a frostbite again.
Yeah, very consistent pressure from Jacob, and yeah, just a very, very solid plan that is quite difficult for Lexi to deal with sometimes.
I imagine Isaac once again on his block trying to figure out if he can deal with the frostbite. Is it worth it? Because I imagine in this matchup, in part as the Lexi, you kind of have to just bide your time and wait till you got those big turns as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You do need to be setting up those big turns, but it's also a little bit tricky because the more you block, the quicker you deplete your deck as well, and you often need a lot of those cards to get damage through. So there's this very tough balancing act of, when do I slow the game down and block and set up a turn without losing too many cards to blocking.
Right. And we see just a 1 card block on that whale with a frostbite being created. And here on Isaac's turn, we're going to have a frazzle being pitched to play out a snapshot. This is a red snapshot, so this is 4. I gotta imagine choosing once again to go again off of Voltaire here. But maybe not actually, because it looks like we're gonna Arsenal here at the end of the turn. So
Oldham
possibly
did
choosing.
take 4 there, so I think Isaac did choose go again, but perhaps just to kind of fake out Oldham a little bit.
See Isaac trying to set up another 6 card hand, but the Oldham does have a Command and Conquer on his turn, threatening 2 cards in the arsenal currently.
Wondering if the Oldham has a pummel here. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a red
That's a
pummel. This is
huge
getting
blowout.
pumped to 10 now. forcing a discard from hand and blowing up both cards in Arsenal.
Yeah, it's always scary whenever the Oldham player decides to just take damage and keep their hand. It kind of know that they're gonna have something good in store for you, or something bad in store from you from the Lexi's perspective. But sometimes you just can't afford to play around the pummel, even if you suspect they might have it.
And so we see Isaac just passing his turn, arsenaling the one card he does have left. We're going to pass back to Jacob's turn. We're going to see an E-strike be played here at the start of his turn. I'm thinking this is 5 with go again. Possibly threatening or possibly leading this into a whale afterwards. Yeah, and this is going to be followed up with a spinal crush. So another 9, threatening no go again on crush. So 4 more damage, no go agains for Isaac's turn.
Oldham really turning up the pressure here.
Yeah, it really feels like Oldham's had kind of all the really heavy hitting cards right as he's needed him here.
Absolutely, and Isaac's been just his draws have not been fantastic. Having to pitch the two Rain Razors is, I'm sure, not what he was hoping for at the start of this game, and even like the defensive Art of War and missing the arrows off three of a kinds. It's been less than ideal. Definitely the deck not treating him the best this game so far. And this
So we
final
see,
crush is so threatening since Lexi can't even like flip to reveal a card or anything. It really shuts the deck down.
right, because it's any action. So Isaac thinking long and hard about his block here. Do you think Isaac just opts to full block this here? Is that probably the play?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he throws three cards.
Oh,
Oh,
interesting.
interesting.
Choosing to take the spinal crush, the full spinal crush. So no go again on Isaac's turn. And possibly is Isaac just he's hovering over his Lexi, making sure he understands how that interaction works.
Yeah, I wonder what Isaac has planned here. I wonder if he has like a lightning press and then can set up two cards in Arsenal or something. Um,
And we see just that,
he's
a
really
lightning
lucky.
surge into a lightning press, into a double lightning press.
So perhaps not really having the best ability to block there.
It looks like we're going to have a Voltaire activation here, possibly just to activate the New Horizons and be able to get a second card into Arsenal. Um, Isaac getting some sneaky damage there, though, taking Oldham down to 19.
Yeah, that was quite a nice line and a good way to get around the spinal. Although Isaac's life total is getting to the point where he's gonna have to start thinking about blocking soon, unfortunately. And oh my goodness, it's a rouse the ancients with a pulverized reveal.
But I don't believe the Oldham. I don't believe Jacob has a follow up here. He's only got one floating. The pulverize or none floating, and the pulverize not being enough to swing the whale. But this does threaten to take Isaac to 1.
Yeah, and one is quite a dangerous spot to be. The whale starts demanding two cards from you, and it's very hard to get anything going off of two cards as Lexi. Oldham is much more well equipped to play a small game with very few cards in hand. I wonder what Isaac will choose here.
Yeah, because at that point, Isaac is just, one dominate away from losing the game. So Isaac thinking long and hard about his block here. This Rouse the Ancient is threatening 7 with go again. Looks like Isaac just double checking on the reveal there, just making sure that he knows what Jacob's capable of right now.
Yeah, perhaps thinking, wait, how do you have one card in hand and activating Rouse? But of course, Pulverize is quite the enabler for Rouse the Ancients there.
Yeah, I think when Pulverize got spoiled, I think that was one of the first things I ended up hearing Guardian players saying is single card Rouse is possible now.
Yeah, definitely. We've been seeing Pulverize be quite an impressive card, and especially in these Oldhim and Starvo decks that can, throw it in Arsenal and crown it away if they don't want it. It ends up being such a not such a big commitment to stick there because sometimes the 10 cost is hard to actually pay for.
Right. Isaac thinking long and hard about his block here, making sure I gotta imagine I have a hard time seeing Isaac go to 1 here myself, just because that is such a scary place to be against an Oldhim with such a healthy life total still in comparison.
Yeah, I think if he goes to 1, the game will be very tough. I imagine he'll throw at least one card in front of this just to give him a little bit of a buffer and, block the whale, take 1 damage a few times or something like that at least. I guess we'll see what he chooses here.
Yeah.
Isaac definitely under a lot of pressure here, not just the life total, but also his dwindling deck size here, and still has 19 damage to push through Oldham's defenses is not going to be easy for him.
Yeah, we see Isaac's already down to 19 cards in deck, with the Oldhim still being at 44 cards. Really running out of kind of all resources right now.
The one good thing for Isaac is he does still, I believe he still has all of the Rain Razors in his deck, and I believe still 1 3 of a kind left in his deck. So he does have some very powerful cards left that could potentially let him close out the game, but his life total also being a concern really does make it quite hard.
Yeah, because running out of ability to take those hits, and now we're just getting into that point where pretty much every attack that Jacob can present will pull at least a card out of Isaac's hand. Isaac's still thinking long and hard about his block. I thought maybe we had a decision there for a second, but doesn't look like quite yet.
Yeah, Isaac, I wonder if he's finally drawn a hand that he's happy with and just struggling to know what to put away. Um,
And
Because he
sometimes,
is very card hungry, and sometimes just like that, losing that one card in hand can really make your turn a lot worse, more so than you would ever expect. Sometimes the one card matters a lot.
I mean, he does have the ability to go to 1 here. His with the pulverize is likely going to go to Arsenal at the end of Jacob's turn. With Jacob sitting on a 5 card hand, like, do you even think it's possible for Isaac to push enough damage to strip Jacob's hand?
It depends on what's in his arsenal. I think it is possible, but it would likely have to involve Rain Razors and or Art of War. Um, so Isaac's choosing to go to one here. I imagine he has something quite big set up, but yeah, be curious to see how this turn plays out.
All right, so we see just that, the Pulverize going to Arsenal. And here we go. Does Isaac have the turn he needs? We're going to see, are we going to start off with we're starting off with Alexia activation, revealing an endless arrow.
So Rain Razors here would be fantastic. Looks like he's going to be opting to pop the Snapdragons here to get go again, I imagine.
Starting off with a red Searing Shot, yeah, giving it go again. And Oldhim just taking this full out.
No Rain Razors played means that Isaac probably doesn't have it. I wonder what the rest of his cards in hand are.
We're going to see a Lighted Up getting pitched. Activate Voltaire. Playing out a Snapshot. And we're going to fuse it. I imagine choosing go again here. So 4 with go again. Able to activate Voltaire an additional time this turn now.
So Isaac able to go quite wide here.
And we're going to see a Crown activation. So this will be full blocked between the Oaknold from hand and Crown of Seeds activation. The Oldhim still sitting at 14 health, 3 cards in hand. And we're going to see another Endless Arrow get loaded.
So this is a must block, or Oldhim is very incentivized to block this to avoid giving Isaac an extra chance to load an arrow off of the extra Voltaire activation from the snapshot.
And Endless Arrow followed up by another Endless Arrow. Almost fully stripping Jacob's hand. Jacob down to just Crown of Seeds and Ironhide Legs left with... Oh, I think we do still have Tunic up as well.
Oh, interesting. I hadn't realized that.
Yeah, not sure why it's shown face down for us. Wonder if it's just a bug from TTS.
This Winter's Wail is just so threatening for Isaac now. He can perhaps get away with throwing one card in the Tunic, but he can only do that the one time, and he still has quite a bit of damage that he needs to deal this game.
Yeah, Isaac certainly in a tough spot right now. And we see Isaac's down to, oh, there we go, 16 cards left in his deck.
He's got to be getting close to his pitch stack there. I think in the next, maybe starting next turn, he'll be hitting his pitch stack roughly. But definitely has his work cut out for him. Oldhim just not letting up the consistent pressure here with the hammer.
So we're going to see, yeah, just like you called, Tunic and a card from hand, a Heaven's Claws being thrown at this. Block for 4. And we're going to go back into Isaac's turn now with 3 cards in hand, 1 in Arsenal.
I wonder if he has some, yeah. You see him like going through his graveyard over and over, so I imagine Isaac very much has like what is left in his deck on his mind, and thinking about what can he possibly draw, what his outs are in this spot.
Right. We see Voltaire being activated with Rain Razors being pitched, playing out a Bolt and Shot. Imagine giving this +1, so then it'll have go again on its own.
Looks like Isaac, okay, opting to use the bracers to just get the one more damage in, coming in for 5.
And old Tim holding on to his hand here, able to block with his Ironhide boots, paying for it off of his tunic. And here is this, an Oakenold fused. I think this is going to be game.
Isaac using the Art of War, I imagine, to get +1 and perhaps dig a little bit, but yeah, it's not going to be enough.
No, and there we have it. The old him taking it. Still, Isaac able to push Jacob down to 3 despite not really getting the hands he was looking for.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of a slow start there from Isaac, some all red hands and missing some arrows off 3 of a kind turns. But Oldham played that very well, I think, blocking very efficiently and finding really good spots to apply pressure back and correctly identifying that, Isaac's low on life and that, just pressuring the hand with attacks is the way to go when Lexi gets so low.
Yep, exactly. So, with that being said, we do have. Uh, so we did have West Coast, Best Coast already cinching the series. They managed to go 3-0 up until this point, but this does bring Indy Arsenal back to 3-1, and we had the other match from this series going on at the same time here. I don't know if we have the results for that yet. I imagine the players possibly still playing even. Yeah, looks like the players are still playing for that one. So, and in this later part of the series, wins do still matter because the wins do carry over to final points for standings in the season. So, um, even though West Coast Best Coast has clinched the series already, yeah, every win still mattering.
Yeah, I
Uh,
believe they look at the records and the points for the tiebreakers, so definitely can be relevant, and I'm sure Indy Arsenal's happy to pick up that win there.
Yeah, because I was actually looking at the standings earlier today, and going into this week, there's a 4-way tie for second place right now in Division Two. So Indy Arsenal and West Coast Best Coast both looking to try to separate from the pack there and try to get a good foothold in those middle spots to avoid relegation at the end of the season.
Yeah, it's
But
definitely a tight race and could be anyone's game. And I guess these next few weeks we'll really see, who pulls ahead in the standings.
exactly. So, with that being said, I do want to say thank you to Yuki for joining us on this broadcast. It was an absolute delight to have you.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it was a blast and had a lot of fun jumping in the booth, joining you, commentating a game.
Awesome. I think if you're feeling up to it, I'm sure we can. We've still got a couple weeks of action ahead of us, and we can probably manage to make another one happen.
Yeah, for sure. Let's make it happen. I'm looking forward to it.
Cool. But until then, that's we are going to be wrapping up for this week of broadcast for West Coast Best Coast. I know there still is a Clout Chasers match that is supposed to happen, I believe, at some point this week. So I'm going to try to get the details for that, and hopefully we'll be able to bring you one more broadcast for this week still. Until then, though, uh, once again, a big thank you to Yuki joining us. I'm Adam Filipchuk, and we are closing the combat chain.